Murder News.
In 1944, George Stinney Jr. became the youngest person to be executed in the U.S. at the age of 14. He was convicted of murdering two white girls in Alcolu, South Carolina, and his entire case from arrest to conviction lasted 83 days. His trial took just 2.5 hours, and the all-white jury returned their guilty verdict after only 10 minutes of deliberation. 70 years after his execution, a judge overturned Stinney's conviction, stating he had not received a fair trial. It's a tragic story, but one that is so important to tell. We are so lucky to have two very special guests from the short film 83 Days with us today.
My name's George Stinney Jr., but everybody called me Junior.
Why they got a kid like you in here?
When I was 14 years old, brought me here to protect me. They say I killed two white girls,
What did you do?
but I didn't. Nothing.
Are you trying to tell me that we've got the wrong guy?
What's the truth?
Well, I don't know. We got two little girls killed. And this town is gonna want somebody to pay.
Where's your pa?
At the mill, sir.
Boy confessed. You made him lie!
I don't care how you do it, but you clean this mess up, and you do it fast.
We would like to welcome director Andrew Howell and writer and executive producer Ray Brown.
Hi.
Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
And how did you find out about George Stinney Jr.'s case, and what inspired you to tell his story?
Well, I was back in, I think, 2011. I was preparing to write another project, another story, and I was kind of procrastinating a little bit, and I came across during that procrastination something that said that 14-year-old was executed. Now I thought this just happened that year, and as I started to do research, I realized that it had happened back in 1944. And the next question that I asked myself is, why have we not heard about this? It's from that point on I decided to drop the other project that I was working on and start trying to develop this film. And that's kind of the cliff notes of it all.
I was working on a series that my wife and I are writing called Ink to Ashes. It was the story of the Tulsa race riots in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. My wife's from Oklahoma; she's from Tulsa, and I was looking. We had raised a little bit of money of our own to put towards proof of concept for that film, but to try to do a mini series is a tough undertaking. So I started pitching that trying to raise the funds, 25 million, to make a mini series or to maybe make a short or something like that. I came across a common friend through the internet, and through that, he introduced me to Ray, and ultimately, and that was Lucius Baston. He's one of the actors in the project, and Lou introduced me to Ray. Ray and I sat down and talked. I read the script, and I wept. I was like, "This is amazing." And at the time, the script was like 118 pages. He had been trying to make a film for what, like 5 years, Ray, something like that.
By that time, yeah, probably about 7 years, something like that.
Wow.
So I was like, "Hey, I think that we can make a really great short film out of this." My background is history, discovery, Channel. I've done a lot of narrative drama work, so I didn't see any of the barriers that I think a lot of people saw when they see period. I saw like opportunity. I was like, "Look, I can do this. Like, I got this is like made for me." And so I said, "Hey, can you cut the film down to 20 minutes, 20 pages?" And he was like, "No, no." And so will you give me a shot at it? And he said, "Sure." So he gave Summer 3 weeks. I said, "Well, listen, give us 3 weeks," and he gave us 3 weeks, and we did. We cut it from 118 pages down to roughly 18, and I think we cut it to like 20, and then again, 18 and stuff like that. And that was the final shooting script. That's what we ended up making. So that's how right.
Yeah.
Well, that's very impressive because it was very well done, and I never would have guessed that some of that was pulled off in 3 weeks.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. As I met Andrew, and correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew. I think we met in this month actually, in 2018, and just a few months after that, we shot this film.
Yeah.
So it
Wow.
was a very short engagement, I guess is what you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah. I had previously met some folks out in Eatonton, South Carolina, where we shot the film. Jim Stone. You know how you have like these series of life circumstances that come together to like the perfect storm, and that's what this film was. It was like I had all the locations because I'd gone out to Eatonton and met Jim with Titan Pictures and those guys, and I was like I knew all these resources, and I was just looking for a project to attach to it, and then this came across my plate. And I was like, we have old houses, we have a jail, we have a courthouse, we got. I was like, we have it all, like right there. I was like, this is it. This is the story. This is the film. This is what I'm supposed to do. You know, like I just knew like this is a perfect fit. And so, I was all excited. I drug Ray out there and our line producer Ryan there. And I think at first they're like, "What are we doing?" It's like it's a ways. It's like 45 from Atlanta. Drug them out there. It's like check it out. And but once they saw the jail, once they started walking through the locations with they were like, oh, and it just clicked. And so from that point, Ray, I think it was like a couple of months, 3 months of pre-pro, and we shot the film in 3 days. So
Yeah. 3 days.
3 days? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. 3 days.
Wow, incredible. Well, in the story, Sheriff Bart Hawkins comes across as doubting Stinney's guilt, but he doesn't really do anything to stop the conviction. We get the sense that he believes Stinney could be innocent and he feels remorse over not doing more to stop his wrongful conviction. How true to the real life Hawkins is the portrayal of Hawkins in the film?
Okay. So here's the thing. Um, we know that the sheriff, whose name is different in the film for a variety of different reasons. We know that he had a life changing experience as a result of this. He was at the execution. Once it was all said and done, his son said his life was changed, and he resigned or retired, I should say, from the sheriff's being the sheriff like 4 months, after being there for over 20 years.
Right.
And so so our our the way that we presented him is we presented him in such a way that it does not take away from the time period that they were in. It's that we don't know if he was a racist. We don't know if he wasn't a racist, but what he was a man of justice.
Mhm.
And I believe that justice trumped any feeling that he may have had towards anybody. So this is why we don't paint the image of him being anything more than what he was. He was the sheriff, and in his mind, he knew. I believe he knew that it was no way that George could have done this. But he's also under the thumb of a governor and of a mayor and so forth and so on. So he is the light, so to speak, at the end of the proverbial tunnel, if you could look at it that way.
I really wanted the audience to identify with somebody on the screen, whether it be Junior or Nadej or somebody on the screen. I think that he played, Brett Rice does an amazing job
Yeah.
in this character and really kind of showing that struggle in a very short period of time frame, a short time span on the screen. And I think he represents a lot of people that I grew up with that were in this transition, I believe, from my grandparents' age to my father. My father really made steps to change the his dad's upbringing, me, and I think he's a good representation of of that transition and what's going on in our country. I believe everybody's got some sort of bigotry, some bias, something. We're all fighting, and so we're all in steps of bettering ourselves. Hopefully, we're all in these steps of the journey of improvement and realizing we have more to live for and we can better. And so I hope that people look at that character and some people can identify with him, in some way, shape, or form.
Well, I like to add to that too. One of the things I've been saying for the longest time is I don't. I think during the Jim Crow South and during that era, um, of course, there was a lot of racism going on back there. I don't believe that everybody, specifically everybody that was white, were racist. I do believe that it was a social thing to some degree, and so you don't act like you're not racist, but you, because of how everybody kind of sees. And I kind of, when I looked at when I consider the sheriff, I kind of saw him that way. That he was in a racist environment. Everybody has, like Andrew said, struggles with it to something, bigotry in some shape, form, or fashion. But again, like I said before, I think justice was the chief thing that moved him as far as that's concerned.
Still principled. He was still a principled character, and we know that to be true based on the fact that he resigned over this event. So we really hung, I think, I felt like we hung our hat on that portion of it. You don't make that big of a step unless you're principled, and so we wanted that to be that transitional character,
Yeah.
but
That's
not
great.
the white savior. Everybody thinks arrest him, to save him, and so I like that we sort of mess around with the audience there a little bit. I feel like, depending on who watches it, if you know the history, but if you don't, you think he's going to come and rescue him.
Yeah.
That is a really good point, because it could have easily taken that angle of the white savior. And I'm glad that you managed to keep it true to history,
Yeah.
and you managed to keep it accurate, but did make this really relatable character. Like, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
So do you think there could be another George Stinney Jr. in 2020, or have the laws changed enough to protect an innocent child from a wrongful conviction?
No. I think it's very likely that that there's already been another George Stinney Jr. I think our laws are need an overhaul. I think some of our laws are still hovering in the area of laws passed, and I don't think there's an ambition or desire in certain circles or certain situations to change those laws because they work. And whether we're talking about a George Stinney who is black, or someone that is white, or somebody that's Asian, or somebody that's Latino, um, there there needs to be a complete overhaul in that area. And I don't. So yeah, the answer to your question is I think that it can be. I think it probably already has to some degree. Yeah.
I, um, are we going to execute another 14-year-old? If that's the question, like, I mean, I think there was a case, um, there was a case that the French came over and filmed here in Jacksonville about a young kid, but I don't think he got the death penalty. But he was young. I want to say he was around 14 or 15 years old, right here in Jacksonville. This is not like 5, 6 years ago. But I don't think he got the death penalty. So I don't know. I definitely feel like that there's room. There's a lot of errors in the system, and one of the things that I learned through the process of making the film is the roots of the criminal justice system were incentivized based on action. So the sheriff in our film was the sheriff of Putnam County in real life. He in Edenton. The guy. I'm sorry, not the sheriff. The judge in 83 Days is the sheriff, and we sat with him, and he talked to us. He's 6-year law enforcement, or 6th-generation law enforcement. We talked to him about the history of law enforcement in the South, and he knows it well. And he talks about, you're paid for key terms. So anytime you unlock somebody, or lock them up, or unlock them, let them out, you're paid a puffing fee. You're paid all these different fees.
Wow.
And so the fees were incentivized by action, not by accuracy. And I think that the roots of that are still in our law enforcement system today. And
Yeah.
until we get away from that type of policing and we get into focusing on accuracy, and we're gonna have problems. I mean, so for me, that's always been my talking point around here. Is like, look, we gotta revamp our criminal justice system to account for accuracy, stop looking for volume. And the incarceration system, the way that it's set up today, is a system. It's just that it's itself, and it's a machine.
Yeah.
So I think that
And I think too that the privatization of prisons and the prison system is a problem. And you know, and I think that um, you know, the governments of the country need to invest more and participate more, I should say, in this than just allowing personal or private interest to come in and you know, and run things, because ultimately it becomes a business. And
Right.
you know, and the result of that is there are a lot of people in jail um, for um, for things that they shouldn't be in jail for long. I just, and I won't, you know, belabor it, but there's a man. He's not young anymore, but you know, he stole $9. I think it was in Alabama. I mean, he's still in jail, and this was like, you know, like 15, 20 years ago. He stole $9. You know, and this is what I'm talking about. So yeah, there definitely needs to be change. I agree with Andrew, and just specifically in the criminal justice system.
That is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
I will gladly put up that $9 for that gentleman. How terrible.
Yeah, it's
Well,
incredible.
sounds like we still have a ways to go.
Oh, we do.
Um, so I have read that 83 Days will be made into a feature-length film in the future. Is that rumor true? And if so, how similar will it be to the original short?
Andrew.
yes, 83 Days will be made into a feature. Um, and your viewers can certainly help us. We are in the process of working through the feature script. We had the feature script, and we are in the middle of reworking it just a little bit. We got lots of interest. We had lots of meetings, and the biggest struggle right now is going to be financing. We're going to get 83 Days, the short, out on a video platform, and we want to encourage people to go watch it. It will be on a paid watch basis, and that money will go to help fund the feature film, particularly the legal fees to get the business structure started. And so yeah, raise. We have the feature script; it's done, but we're reworking it a little bit. We had some recent,
New information.
yeah, new information is that is too good. So we're
Yeah.
excited, taking it a slightly new direction, but it's going to be very similar. Um, to the short in terms of the quality, and but it will elaborate, and we'll be able to dive into the Stinnies a little bit more, some of the family elements and the relationship between George and his son, and we'll be able to dive into the other relationships inside of Alcolu.
Yeah. I like the idea that we're expanding. We're really, without really getting into the expansion. And as Andrew was saying, it's giving us an opportunity. Look at him smiling, because I knew he thought I was going to say something. Without really getting into the expansion, it does give us an opportunity to expound on other things that surround the case, and that's kind of why I'll leave it at. I mean, it's an incredible. It has been an incredible journey, but it's not over yet.
The short leaves you with a lot of, like, what the heck about that sheriff? Like, wait a minute, what was going on at trial? Like, what? There's all these things that you're like, whoa, 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 like it's going too fast. Wait, at the end, you're just like, whoa, whoa, stop! It's like a roller coaster, from the top of Gal, through the end. It's just like it just takes off, and you're like, you finish the film, and you're just like there's got hit with all this stuff. Well, that's the best we could do in 30 minutes. I was dying to keep it under 30 minutes so we could not so we could screen it, because a lot of folks won't take the long short films. We got really lucky with the number of festivals we got in, considering the length. So yeah, we're going to dive into all that stuff, and let people understand a lot of the history behind it, and we have a little more time to do it in, so that'll be good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so great. So where can our viewers find you now? Can they find you on social media? Is there any place they can watch the film?
Absolutely. So we're 83 days at 83 days movie, and at 83 days film are our handles, and we have an Instagram out there. We haven't been doing a lot of action on it lately. Facebook, we're active on our Facebook Messenger, so if they want to hit us up on Facebook Messenger, follow the Facebook page. As soon as we get a link to the screener up, um, we'll be posting it there, and we'll probably do like for those people that are in our social media, we'll probably do some kind of special like limited time screening, like discounts where they can come in and watch it just to get an initial push there and get people out there and get excited and sharing it with everybody.
Yeah.
Well, that's so great. Andrew and Ray, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it. We love the film. We continue all of our viewers to go out and watch it and find you all on social media. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks for having us.
Having us. Thank you so much.
Murder, murdered you.